So, guys, we've got a very special guest today on Over the Maroon podcast. We've been very lucky to be joined by our second Scottish Cup winner. This guy played in the most famous game in Hearts history at Hampden Park, even scoring on that day. We're very, very honoured to be joined by Hearts left-back from that day, the one and only Danny Grainger. Danny, how are you, man?
I'm very good, thank you very much, and thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to having
Not a problem.
Have a chat and a catch-up about some good old times.
Perfect. It's an absolute honour to have you on, so thank you for joining us. Myself and Lee, we've put together a few questions. What we'd like to do with you, Danny, is just work our way through your early career, joining Hearts, onto the final, and then have a nice chat with you about football today and how you're feeling about things, and it'd be really interested to see what you think what's going on at Tynecastle. So thank you for joining us, and I'm sure me and Leo have a good chat with you.
I'm looking forward to it. Should be good.
Perfect. Cool. Lee, are you with us, man?
I am. I'm just a bit buzzing myself.
I know. You've done good work, mate. Two in a row. So let's get started with Danny then. Lee, I know you had some questions about his early career and stuff. Let's have a chat. Let's get into it.
Absolutely. So, Danny, I'll mirror what Rory says. It's great to have you along, buddy. And so we see here, Danny. So you were born in Penrith, down in England, yeah?
Yeah, born in just outside Penrith, yeah.
Yeah. I live in Harrogate myself, down in North Yorkshire.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit of a task getting up to Tynecastle these days.
There'll be a good few changes on there. Each on the train journeys up there.
Yeah, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad at all. It's lovely to get out, have a few cans on the way up on the train, and get the match day program and stuff. I like that. It's great. So basically, you started your career at Gretna. Were you living in Scotland prior to that?
No, so obviously Gretna's just sort of 30 miles from where we lived. I was with Carlisle as a youngster, obviously as like youth football up to about under 14s, and I went back to local football. I got released from Carlisle at under 14s, and then one of my old coaches was actually taking up the scholarships up at Gretna, and he invited me up to a trial night one night, and got selected there to go into their full-time scholarship. So I had actually been offered a part-time scholarship type thing with Queen of the South the week before, so it was a tough decision to me because obviously Queen of the South were a higher division than Gretna at the time. But yeah, obviously going into Gretna, Brooks Milson came in with all the dreams, and I was sort of one of the lucky ones to be able to live my dream through people like Brooks Milson.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because a lot of the players that would have been at Gretna and maybe in their academy and stuff maybe didn't manage to get the breakthrough like yourself when funds became an issue back in the day.
Yeah, I think there was 3 or 4 of us that were in around the first team at the start of it, and then obviously it dropped down to sort of 1 or 2 of us, and then before you know it was just sort of really myself in and around the first team. So yeah, no, it was brilliant. Like I say, I was lucky enough. I learned a lot of good players, Jimmy McQuilkin, Gav Skelton, Derek Townsley, people like that, Alan Mains, a lot of good experienced pros, David Binghams, John O'Neill's, a lot of good footballers that were dropping down to our level, and I was able to learn a lot of them, and it was a great dressing room to be part of.
Yeah, and obviously they done fantastically well to get to a Scottish Cup final themselves in 2006, didn't they?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was a real surreal one for me. That was the year division, and I actually went on loan to Brechin, who were in the first division at the time. And Raoul Alexander kind of said to me, "Listen, you aren't going to play as much this year, but you're going to have a big part to play next year. So I'm going to send you out on loan to the league above." I went there, and obviously that was the year they got to the Scottish Cup final, and I was on the bench in the Scottish Cup in the round. And then I came back to training in preparation for the Scottish Cup final, and I was going to be on the bench in the Scottish Cup final. And then I was obviously away on loan at Brechin when the semi-final was on, and that made me ineligible for the final. And I was going to be on the bench in the final, so I didn't find that out until the Friday. So it was very, very, very hard to take. And then obviously going up and things like that and watching the game and obviously getting so close. And like you say, ironically, it was against Hearts.
How old were you at that time, Danny?
Yeah. I'll have been 17 or 18 at that time.
Oh, yeah, so proper gutted then,
Yeah, it
18
was
year old
hard
thinking
because
you're going to get on in the final.
Yeah, I'd been involved with Gretna obviously since we'd come right the way through and things like that, and it was a big part of me, and obviously you wanted part of the big days, and obviously I was devastated when I wasn't. So, but again, it's these are things that you take in your stride and you learn from them, and you take the disappointment and you use it as fuel type thing.
Yeah, perfect. So,
Yeah,
go on, Lee.
Yeah, it's like it's almost as if Malson was like the Roman Abramovich of Gretna, wasn't it? And sadly for Gretna and the players and their fans, it was an end of a romantic dream for them.
Yeah, I think obviously
after that final, wasn't it?
Brooks was a man that came in with a dream, and anybody that knew Brooks was one of the kindest men going. I've heard a lot of people say bad things about Brooks, but Brooks was a very kind man. He had a dream, and to be honest with you, if it wasn't for Brooks Marston, I probably wouldn't have been given the dream what I had, and have been privileged to play the football that I played, because he gave me that stepping stone to play in the SPL and things like that. So, but as you say, we went to Ross County on the last day of the season before getting promoted to the SPL, and ironically, probably in hindsight, it's probably the worst thing that happened to us was getting promoted, because you could kind of see that was the beginning of the end for Gretna, because you're never going to compete with 300, 400 fans. They could have probably competed in the Championship, which is now, and League One, and fluttered between them two quite comfortably. Mm-hmm. But obviously, going to the SPL, you're going to some massive clubs, and trying to compete against them, it was never going to work. But again, it gave me the platform to move on myself, so I can't be too sort of downhearted about it.
So
absolutely no. I completely agree.
Yeah, so Danny, that sort of came to an end, and then you found yourself heading off to Dundee United. How did that move come about?
It came around quite quickly, to be honest with you. I had a bit of time at Gretna in the SPL, and we played Kilmarnock away around Christmas time, and I'd scored and assisted in a 2-0 win, and I had quite a good game, and I had quite a good sort of 4 or 5 weeks prior to that. And my agent just phoned me up after the game, and he just said, "Listen," he said, "Dundee," and he said, "There's keep your phone near you, because there's something going to happen this weekend." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And it's just strange, but anyway, long story short, he phoned me on the Sunday night, and he was like, "Listen, we're going to go. Dundee United are coming in for you." And I was like, "Oh wow!" And he says, "You need to find out what your fee is off Brooks." So I went to Brooks and sort of said to Brooks, "How much do you want for me to leave?" And I think you could get a development fee back then for people that have come through your youth system and played in your first team as well. So Brooks just sort of said, "Listen, get me a youth development fee that you would be entitled to at the end of the season, and you're allowed to leave." So obviously, phoned my agent back, and then 2 days later, I was up at Dundee United. It was again a bit surreal. It happened really fast, really quickly. Sort of literally 2 or 3 days in around Christmas, I thought I was going to get home maybe the end of January, but no such luck, and straight into it. And again, very strangely, obviously, my first game was against Hearts.
Was it again?
Yeah.
Oh gosh!
So it was.
And was it your manager at the time that when you moved to Dundee?
Yeah, Craig Levine was my manager with Husty. So obviously, I've got a very, very good relationship with the likes of Husty and Craig Levine. Obviously, Craig went to Hearts, and it didn't quite work out for him, but he's someone that I got on really well with, and can't speak high enough, really.
So you had
that's great.
You had a couple of players, right, at Dundee United. What was the Spanish guy? Sandaza, was he there that year?
Yeah. Fran Sandaza.
Yeah, what was he like?
Yeah, he was good. It was sort of like he came just sort of as I was about to leave, really. So we had like John Daly, Craig Conway, Noel Hunt, Willow Flood, Prince Bob, and Magaro Gomez, Sean Dillons, Jim O'Brien's, all them players. So no, we had a good group, to be honest with you. It was a really strong group. It was full of experience and youngsters as well. So you had the likes of Johnny Russell and David Goodwillie coming through as well. So no, it was a good club and a good team to be at.
It seems like Gomez and Blabin have been at every single team together.
They were inseparable when they were together at Dundee United. It was they were great, absolutely fantastic players. I think obviously when you look at the midfield that we had them two and Willow Flood in there. sort of you knew what you were getting out of them, and you knew the quality that they had. So no, it was they were the two very good players, very close friends, and I'm pretty sure they will be now. So yeah, they seem to. I thought that before when I've seen them join clubs together, they seem to follow each other around. I think so.
I find they've worked a really good relationship, haven't they? They know each other.
Yeah, they complemented each other very well, and that was something that we had in the team that we had. Everyone seemed to really complement each other's game. I mean, the back two was either Gary Kenneth and Lee Wilkie, or Lee Wilkie and Darren Dodds. You had sort of me and Sean Dillon as full-backs who were happy to go forward. You had Craig Conway on one wing. You had Noel Hunt, John Daly through the middle. So again, everyone seemed to complement each other's game, and it was good. It was a really tight-knit group as well. We all sort of lived very close in a little town, a little village just outside of Dundee. So most of us lived in a close vicinity, and we're always with each other. So it was good. Good training facility over at St Andrews, done properly, and you felt looked after, which is fantastic.
So, Danny, your time there was actually quite short before you moved on. How did the next move come around to St Johnstone? Because obviously you went at Tannadice for that long, really.
No, well, I'd had my first 6 months there. Obviously, I'd done really well and things like that. And then the second season, I was suspended for the first 2 games of the season, and Craig Levein brought Paul Dixon in for competition with myself, and it just wasn't work. I missed the first 2 games, like I say, and then I just couldn't get in. And to be fair, Dixon done really well. He was getting assists, he was getting goals. So you can't really blame Craig Levein for leaving him in. But obviously, I was young at the time. I was only sort of 20-ish, and I wanted to play football. So it kind of came about quite quickly. Tony Docherty and Dell were down at St Johnstone. I lived 20 miles north of Perth, 20 miles south of Dundee. So it was ideal, really. I didn't have to move house. My family was settled. My wife had a job. She was happy where we were. So it just ticked a lot of boxes, really. And again, someone who I'm really close with now, Andy Webster, they were trying to get him in at Dundee United at the time, and they needed to make room. So I kind of said, listen, that St Johnstone have got a little bit of interest. What's the chances? And Craig Levein was like, listen, I don't want to lose you, but if you want to go there and play football, then I understand. And so I left there, went to St Johnstone, and had 2 seasons at St Johnstone, which were fantastic. I absolutely loved my time at St Johnstone. It ended very bitterly, which I was really disappointed about, because it was a club I really enjoyed. Had really good memories there. Played for in my eyes, one of the best managers I've worked for. Derek.
It was Derek.
McInnes was a manager, and he's one of the best managers I've ever worked for. He was fantastic, and things like that. So I mean, St Johnstone was a fantastic club for me, and like I said, I played every week. I think I played 70 games in 2 seasons, which is what you want to do as a young footballer. And again, got quarterfinals and semi-finals, just didn't quite get over the line, and made some really, really good close friends. So again, it was brilliant, really.
A couple of big names in that St Johnstone squad as well, in terms of Michael Dubry and Jody Morris and stuff like that. It must have been good for you as a youngster to play with guys that have been at that top level. Yeah,
it was brilliant, and again, like you say, people like that were fantastic. People like that were great. They sort of helped you as much as they could, and then you had the likes of Dave Mackay, who obviously was Mr. Sort of Mr. Consistent. You knew what you were getting out of Dave Mackay every week. You had Liam Craigs, Murray Davidson's, Chris Miller's.
Yeah, Murray's. Yeah.
So again, it was another strong squad, and I think obviously there was nights there when we won good games. We picked up big wins against the likes of Rangers and Celtic. So again, it was a club that we done well with. But my thing was that we all knew that this wasn't going to be there for much longer. He was starting to do really well, and no disrespect to St Johnstone, I enjoyed it with that manager, but you never know what's going to happen with the next manager coming in.
And who was it that came in?
I can't remember. I think it was Tommy Wright who came in after Dell, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure who came.
Lomas
Say again,
at one point, wasn't he?
It might actually. That's who it was. It was Steve Lomas after Dell.
Yeah.
And I again, it wasn't anything to do with that. It was just a case of the fact that I had enjoyed it so much with Dell that we all knew at some point that next season he would leave, and obviously in hindsight he did. So it was a correct decision for me to leave, and again, it sort of, as I say, it finished bitterly, which I'm sure we'll move on to now. But it was really disappointing how it finished for me.
So before
I think so. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, before we move on to sort of how it ended and stuff, obviously you're a manager now as well, Danny, and you speak so highly of Derek. What was it about Derek that you enjoyed so much, and what set him apart for the other guys that you worked for?
I've been very, very lucky in who I've worked for, to be honest with you. Like I've worked for big managers, Craig Levine's and Jim Jeffries and Paulo's and Derek McInnes's, people like that. But Dell just seemed. I always get asked this, like, why? And it sounds so simple, but he just got it right. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Training was good, intense. We trained, we wanted to play. Everything had a purpose. His video wasn't too long. It wasn't too short. Set pieces weren't like you were standing on the pitch for 4 hours. It was short and sharp, but you knew your roles. You just got things right, and it was so enjoyable. You enjoyed it, but you knew it, and it was brilliant.
No, that's good. So let's talk about then at St Johnstone. Then, what, from your point of view, what happened and what went wrong to you leaving there?
So what happened was it was coming to the end of my contract, and Derek McInnes had come to me about 2 months before my contract ended. I said, "Listen, we're going to offer you a new contract. You're going to stay, aren't you? Because you're happy." And I went, "Well," and this was the start of it. So I said, "Well, I don't think you'll be here though," and all this. And he was like, "Well, you can't think like that. You've just got to get on with it." And I found it hard. And my wife was pregnant with my little fella at the time, and we were kind of thinking that it was maybe time to move a little bit closer to home. I backed down to Carlisle. I'd had a few initial talks with Carlisle, and things were sort of starting to move on that front. So I'd done an interview for, I can't remember if it was a Scottish paper or our local paper down here, and the back page or one of the pages inside it, it's more or less said Grainger asks for a come and get me player to Carlisle United, and obviously that looked horrendous to start with, because it looks like I'm trying to get myself out of a club that I'm enjoying and I'm really enjoying. And then obviously we're in talks with Carlisle United, and then out of the blue, I had no idea. My agent phones me. He just said, "Hearts are in for you. What do you think?" And my words to him were, "Get it done." So don't care what it is, get it done. Now, and this isn't me just saying this because I'm on a Hearts podcast. If you speak to anybody in Scotland, Tynecastle is the best atmosphere, I think, in the country. But when you're in there and it's bouncing and things like that, everyone wants to play there. It's a massive club. They were in Europe. They were on that run with Jim Jeffries at the time, where they were 16 or 17 games unbeaten at the end of the season. They were going absolute gung-ho, and it just felt, it's Hearts, and that's what it is. And people will say, I'll say it because it's a club that I've got a lot of fond memories for, and I've got a lot of big feelings for, but it's not. Hearts is a massive club. Anybody who says it isn't knows that they're not talking the truth. Do you know what I mean? So as soon as that came in, and I just said to my agent, "Get it done. I want it done. Don't try and push the contract too much, because I don't want them walking away." Came back 2 days later, contract agreed, and I was going over to sign.
What did the missus say then? Missus was she pining for Carlisle, or was she just delighted?
You know what? I've been very, very lucky in the fact that my wife's followed me around. We left England. We were in Scotland for 10 years, and we moved around. My little fella was 4, he had 11 houses. So I was very lucky. I had a very supportive wife who came around with me, and she, as soon as we said Hearts, she was the same as me, and we knew that we would move. We moved out towards West Linton, on the far side of Edinburgh, so we were only an hour and 40 from home. So we were. People said, "Oh, you're only trying to work Carlisle for a better deal at Hearts," and I wasn't. it wasn't that case. I'm not anybody who knows me knows me. I'm not a type of person. In my eyes, I was going home until Hearts came in, and then it all changed as soon as Hearts came on the door. So, look, playing in front of 20,000 every week at an amazing stadium for an amazing club, well supported. Brilliant, absolutely fantastic.
So there you go.
What sets it aside from teams like before? Because obviously, you've by the time Hearts have came knocking, you've made almost 150 professional appearances. You've got a vast amount of experience already for such a young lad that's gone into a Hearts team that are doing really well. What set Hearts aside for you in comparison to
the
other
club?
Teams?
We've been. Anybody who's been to Scotland knows. I mean, that Dundee United, massive club, huge club. Love my time there, brilliant. St Johnstone, great club. Not hugely supported, but a great club. Ran fantastically. Good club. But you talk about Hearts. You're thinking about winning things, and you're thinking you can win things rather than hoping. You're expecting to be at the top end of leagues. You're expecting to be going to Rangers and Celtic and competing. You're expected an expectancy, really. I love an expectancy. I love a drive that you have to do things right, and that's similar to what I'm not like now as a manager. I just want things done right, and the Hearts is a club that you just felt like you knew you had to be on your game. Any little sort of leeway, and you knew you'd be getting either pelters from the fans, or you'd be getting pelters from the lads, or you'd be getting put up against the wall by the manager. There's an expectancy, and that's what you want. You want that as a young footballer. That's what we all thrive on. You want that real bit of expectancy, so you have to go and kick on and do well.
And you did very well.
And you started with a game at Ibrox, and I believe it was a draw. You got an assist.
We drew.
Is that correct? So how did that feel making your debut through at Ibrox? I suppose you played there before, didn't you, and stuff?
Yeah, I think obviously the biggest thing for me going that day was the fact that you weren't going there thinking, right, I wonder how we're going to do. You were going there thinking, right, we're going to win this game, and look, everybody knows, and there's no hiding place in Scotland that Celtic and Rangers are the two that really compete for the league, and the other ones are competing for European places and the Scottish Cups or the League Cup and things like that. But there's still an expectancy. You're still expected to go there and put on a performance and get a result. And I think when I was at Hearts, I think we beat Rangers twice, drew once, and lost a few times. We beat Celtic 2 or 3 times, lost a few times. Whereas at the other clubs, I think my best result was a 0-0 draw with Dundee United, and then away at Celtic, and we beat Rangers 4-1 at St Johnstone. So at Hearts, it wasn't, and you were kind of expected. And that day there, we went down there. Lee Wallace had just moved to to Rangers that week, I think it was. So I came into the starting lineup, and got an assist, a corner, and David Boer nodded it in. And to be honest with you, I was actually talking to Jim Jeffries not long ago, about a month or so ago. We got on about this game, and I said I can remember it. We absolutely battered Rangers that day, and how we only got a 1-1 draw, I'll never know.
Yep. Yeah, I remember. I was there.
It was a good game. It was a game that we played really well, and Little Temps absolutely had a worldie. I think it was Whittaker would have been having nightmares about him that night, but it was a good performance.
Temps could do some magic with that ball, I tell you that much. That goal against Hib was unreal.
He was a fantastic player, a good lad as well.
So talking about players that you played with at Hearts, I'm maybe jumping ahead a bit, but who was the best player that you played with at Hearts in your time there? Who was the one that stood out for you?
For me, obviously, you've got your obvious one in Rudy. It was strange. Rudy was I was really close with Rudy, and I still speak to Rudy quite a lot now. And it was strange. You'd walk in the dressing room some mornings and you'd get one word morning out of him, and that was it. Other mornings he'd talk to you, but as soon as you got on the training ground, he set a standard, and he'd done everything properly. But the one that really stands out for me, and probably on more so in the fact that, like I've just been speaking about, like the expectations and the drives and things like that, was Andy Webster. The 2 years that I was there, Webby's professionalism and his drive for people to be successful and things like that. He was involved in the national team at the time, and he was just doing well. And like I say, he was a fantastic player. And then obviously we had the likes of Zal, Jamie Hamills, Blackies, Susos, Mehdi Tayoul's, Stevie Elliott's, Craig Peters. We had a great squad, to be honest with you. The year we won the cup, I can remember sitting down after we'd won the cup, and I actually said, when we were talking about it, if we could keep this group together and add another 2 or 3, we'll compete right at the top end. I'm not saying we're going to go and win it, but we would have been competing well up at the top end of the league. I just felt like we had everything. We had good fullbacks, experienced centre halves, good goalkeeper, good centre midfielders, wide players. Driver and Suso were on fire all the time. Mehdi was coming in onto it. You had Stevie Elliott, Rudy scoring goals, Beats involved with it. And you're just looking at it thinking, if we just had another couple of probably like starters to squad players, you won't be far away from pushing at the top end of the league. But obviously everything changed that next season when Paolo left, Blackie left.
Yep. You look at the lineup here, and it's incredible the players that we had back then in comparison to now. I mean, no disrespect to now, the players now are still good, but the players back in that 2011-12 season, incredible. Like the likes of Andy Webster, like you said, Craig Beattie, Jamie Hamill, John Sutton, Callum Elliott, Arvidas Novikovas, Scatcho, Tayoul.
I remember the day I signed. They signed me, Mehdi, Jamie Hamill, and Suts on the same day, and I'll never forget because that was the first time I actually came off social media because I got absolute pelters. I was getting welcomed by loads of fans, but then people saying, "Why are we signing players like this from Kilmarnock and St Johnson and Motherwell? And these aren't players that we need. We need proper players." And it just shows that it's as much as if you get the right player, it's not always about the ability. And I think obviously when you look at some of the players that have been to Hearts, that probably you wouldn't say you're sort of marquee players, but I tell you what, and they've done really well there. So, but again, like you say, it was a strong squad. If you looking at SPL players, the squad that we had that year was full of SPL players. And then you had the likes of Ryan Stevenson, players like that as well. The Temps that was there, but obviously left. No, it was a really strong squad and a good squad as well.
See that feeling that you talked about there, Danny, sitting there thinking as a group that you can go on and push on. Obviously, that's something that a manager can't create. That's something that just happens. How special is that when you actually feel that in a dressing room, and how much of a difference does that make to a player?
Environment is the biggest thing that will bring success. Doesn't matter. You could have the world's best 11 players. If you've got a horrendous environment or a poor work environment, or people just start, then you haven't got it. I used to remember we used to finish training. We'd all go up for lunch after training. There'd be 5 or 6, 7 of us would go in the indoor at Heriot Watt doing our own stuff. There'd be 7 or 8 of the lads go to the gym doing their own stuff. It wasn't a case of that they got there, finished, right time, home time. They enjoyed being around each other. There was a little gym group. There was me, Webby, Hamill, Ryan Stevenson, Daz Barr, players like that we were in the gym all the time together. You'd get there earlier to have a bit of breakfast together and have a crack, and that's something that is created. And I think obviously the year that we won the cup, we went through a lot of sort of turmoil with regards to wages and not getting paid and things like that. So we had to stick together, and the manager, obviously, we were all disappointed when Jim left because obviously everyone had a really close relationship with Jim Jeffries. And Paulo's probably got the brunt end of the stick, to say the least. When he first came, we were like, who's this guy type thing. And but by the end of it, obviously, we all got on really well with him. And it was a good bunch.
So let's talk about one of the days leading up to the biggest day. What was the semi-final like against Celtic? at Hampden. That looked, for me, that was one of my highlights of being a Hearts fan that day. I just loved that. I loved how he's bounced back. It came to the end. Rudy was on fire. But we had a belief that we would beat them. Did you guys? You must have had the confidence going into that.
Yeah, I think
well.
obviously the biggest thing for me that weekend was I can remember turning up at the training ground on the. I think we played on the Sunday. And did Hibs play at Aberdeen? I think it was Aberdeen in this.
Yeah, Hibs
And
Aberdeen.
I can remember walking into the. We were training in the afternoon before we went down to Glasgow at the night time because Paolo didn't take us away like to Glasgow the night before, the afternoon before for training or anything like that. We trained at the training ground, then went down. So we came in and we all when we were coming in, Hibs were playing Aberdeen, and everyone's like, "Oh, it can't be Hibs! It can't be Hibs!" And I'm sitting there like there's Lockie, there's Blackie. The kitman Gogsy and we walked in the kitman's room and the TV's on and it can't be Hibs, it can't be Hibs. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You mental or something? It has to be Hibs. You have to want to play Hibs. And they were like, no, honestly, it's the worst thing ever if it's Hibs and us. It's the worst thing ever. And I'm sitting there thinking, obviously, before this, I've only been there sort of 18 months at this time. And you're kind of thinking, well, not even that, probably 9 months. And you're sitting there thinking, why don't you want to play? I've played in all the derbies this season. We've beat them all the time. It's been class. The atmosphere's been amazing. And Lockie and Blackett, you don't understand. It can't be Hibs. So, obviously, you're then going into the Hibs win. You then go into the semi-final. And obviously do the business. But, yeah, I mean, the semi-final was... You did have the belief. And I think when you look at the Celtic team, we beat them earlier in the season 2-1 at Tiny. Rudy had scored a worldie, and I think Webby or Eggert got the goal given to them for a header. So we were confident. We knew that they were beatable. They were a good team, and I think Paolo had his day that day. Paolo set us up to just sit there in the first half and literally hardly come out of our half. And that's what we done in the first half. We just literally camped in, and Driver was next to me. Suso, I think it was, in next to Gauza, just sort of camped in a bit. And then he said, "Oh, don't worry, the game will open up. The game will open up." And the longer the game went on, he then made a couple of changes, brought Beats on, and then the game just changed on its head. And then when obviously the penalty goes in, you're just like, wow, this is... But if you actually watch, as Beats scores and goes running, Daz Bar's like behind him. Me, Daz Bar and another are on a yellow card. So if we get another yellow card, we're suspended for the final. So you just see Daz Bar and me jump on our break as Beats runs off the pitch because we don't want to get booked for leaving the grass. So we're kind of running around Hampden like a pair of idiots, man.
And you
like
would have
trying to catch him as if to say, "Come back here so we can celebrate with you." But no, I mean that was Beats. That was Beats, and I think obviously he was my roommate for the final, and probably one of the biggest images for me in the morning when I woke up. Beats is sitting there in his bathrobe in the hotel, morning of the cup final, telling me to make him a cup of tea, and you kind of think, can this guy be any more relaxed? We're about to play in the Scottish Cup final. So yeah, but no, we had belief because we had good players, like you say there. We didn't have a set of players. There wasn't anybody who you look at and thought he was the weak link, or if Rudy didn't turn up, we're knackered. We had good players. Do you know what I mean? We had good experienced players. You knew that the likes of Webby and Zal, Jamie McDonald, drivers, players like that. They were big players for the club.
They're instrumental, aren't they? And the more we talk about them, even now, all these years after, it still gives me goosebumps to think that those players played for our team and that they made these dreams a reality. One question I've got for you is, why did you?
I wasn't actually a designated penalty taker. It was Jamie Hamill was our penalty taker right the way through the season. I'd taken penalties before, and obviously the semi-final had come, and Paolo had never even mentioned the penalties. So obviously, I would have gone if Beats wasn't on the pitch. I'd have probably gone to grab the ball, but Beats already had it, and I thought, it's one of them ones you don't cause a fuss. Beats was experienced. You knew he would score, and it was a fight. Yeah. I never
Did you know he was going to score?
Beats. He was.
Did not put it straight down
Yeah,
the
he
middle?
did, went right down the centre, didn't he?
And that was what Beats was like. Beats. I remember it going against him where he drove it. It was just a shame that we couldn't get him fully fit week in, week out because he was a big player for us. And then it was the final that I got put onto penalties. We sat at breakfast and we'd been practicing penalties on the Friday in case, obviously, we'd gone to shootout and I think I'd taken 7 or 8 and not missed any.
Sorry, Danny,
can you hear us now?
I think you broke up just a little bit there, buddy.
That's it.
Oh, I can hear you now. Yep. Sorry, I think it was from when I asked you why you didn't take the penalty, and Beatties took the ball straight away, and you had no doubts that he would score.
It was the final where I'd sort of been put onto the penalties because we'd taken penalties the day before in case it had gone to a shootout, and we were sat there and I can't remember if it was pre-match meal or breakfast, and just Paolo just walked past and he says, "Yes, guys, quick thing, penalty taken today, Danny," and then tapped me on the head and walked out, and I was like, "I like no bother, fine." And just then, and it sounds silly, and obviously hindsight's the greatest thing ever, but I knew we'd get a penalty. As soon as he said it, I thought, "You never said this in the semi-final, but you've said it now." I said, "We're getting a penalty today," and I said that to Beats when we got back to the room after lunch. I said, "We'll get a penalty today." He says, "Yeah, I know," and just knew. But it was.
What was that pressure like, knowing that was on your shoulders, that your boss, your gaffer, has just told you if we get a penalty today in the Salt and Sauce Cup final, you're taking it?
It was
what
unbelievable,
like?
to be honest with you. It was obviously you want to score in these types of games. You want to be involved in them, but to have that obviously sort of on your shoulders. I took every set piece going. You know what I mean? Bar goal kicks. I think I took everything. It was just one of them things. I took corners. I took free kicks. I took direct free kicks. I was always confident with dead balls. And I spoke to my dad the night before, and he said, "Right, if it goes to penalties, obviously, I know you'll step up. Where are you going to go?" And I said, "It won't go to penalties." And he just said to me, he says, "No, I know it's not." But he says, "If it does, tell me now where you're going to put the ball." Because he says, "And whatever you do, do not change your mind." He says, "If you miss that penalty and you've put it there," he says, "you'll live with yourself no matter what." He says, "If you put it at the other side and the keeper saves it, you'll always say, if I'd have stuck to my guns, I'd have scored." So he says, "Tell me where you're putting it and put it there when you get a penalty. Like when you get into the shootout." So I told him I'm going to go short run up, nice and high, keeper's right. And he just said, he says, "Right," he says, "whatever you do not change your mind and put it there." So I was like, "Right, no bother." So that was that. And obviously then when Paolo told me that, I spoke to my dad and I said to him, "So I'm on penalties." He went, "Yeah." He says, "If you get one," he says, "do not change your mind. You've told me where you're putting it, put it there." And that was it. And then when the whistle went to give me the penalty, when Suso went grabbed the ball. I was walking around for a couple of minutes and I knew where I was putting it. So I didn't feel any nerves or anything. It was just, I don't know, really, just a bit surreal.
So,
wow,
you quickly touched on it there with the set pieces. Paulo was I remember us being quite focused on corners and stuff under Paulo, and we caused a lot of damage with set pieces. Was that something that you guys put a lot of work into on the training ground and stuff?
If you you've actually watched the goals back. Excuse me. The first goal, obviously, I know obviously the rebound, but it was intended for the back post for Webby and Zal, with Gauzer and Dasbar going to the front post. The next one, the second one, obviously that. The third one's mine. The fourth one, Gauzer's. It is a short corner routine that we used, and Paolo knew that we'd get a chance from there, and that's why it was Rudy that was coming in, and it was probably the only time I've ever seen Rudy scuff a ball, to be honest with you. I thought he would have taken the back of the net off with a rocket like that, but Paolo put a lot of. I mean, when you look at it, we scored a lot of goals that year from set pieces against likes of Celtic and teams like that. We had big players, we had like tall players, we had Webby, we had Zal, Gauzer, Dasbar, Beats. players like that, always attacking the ball. So you always had 4 or 5 big players. So no, it was always something that we worked on.
Go on, Lee.
Fantastic. I mean, I like whenever I think of a football match now, if I ever go back into my own head and think, of a moment that I've would like to live again, a particular day, it would be, my wedding, the birth of my children, and then 2012 Scottish Cup final, like without a doubt. But the lead up to that match, the goosebumps and nerves, the butterflies that are unexplainable for weeks on end before we played Hibs, and then to hammer them, destroy them, humiliate them 5-1. I think I celebrated for weeks after.
I'm still celebrating.
God, yeah, mate. Gorgon Road has never been the same after we hit that. I mean, we celebrated so hard for days. And what was, and I'm missing parts of the match just now, but like, how did you guys, at what point of that match did you feel like it was won? And were you already thinking
just touching on what you were saying there about the build-up and things like that? It was, the build-up for me was amazing. Like, because obviously as much as I am now, I feel part of like the Hearts family and things like that, and the Hearts club and things like that. I wasn't then. And I think obviously if we'd have lost, I'd have probably been obviously kicked out to the curb and things like that. Anyway, but I wasn't nervous at all. And then I can remember coming into Hampden, turning the corner on the bus, coming into Hampden, and just before we went down the runway underneath the stadium to go there, seeing all my friends and family standing at the top of the bridge type thing, and just literally on my side of the bus. And that was the first time I got nerves for it. And I just thought, oh, wow, this is real now. Like, this is incredible. Coming out for it, the fireworks, things like that. And to go on to what you're saying there, I would probably say that we once Gowser's goal went in, it was kind of like, right, you might as well blow the whistle now, because these lot aren't coming after us. I think they were literally sat behind. There was one point, I think, I've watched the game back that many times. I think it was about 68, 69 minutes. I passed the ball to Webby passes it to Zal to Gowser, and it comes backwards and forwards about 10, 15 times. And it's like, use a 4-1 down in the Scottish Cup final. Why aren't you coming after us? And it was literally like, I think they just turned around and thought, do you know what? We have to take this. And that was it. And it was at that point. And to be honest with you, I know a lot of fans, and I speak to a lot of fans, and they say, why didn't you go for more? Why didn't you go for more? Why didn't you go for more? And we were never going to lose that final at 4-1 or 5-1. But you had the likes of Webby, Zal, Rudy, Stephen Elliott just saying, just keep the ball. We've won it. Just keep the ball. That's all we have to do now. Why give them a little bit of a sniff by letting them have a chance, or given if a Zal or a Webby slips and gets sent off, does it bring them back into it? So the experience of them lads. Whereas if you'd had the likes of me, Gowser, Driver, Blackie, we'd have just probably kept going and getting involved with something that we probably didn't need to get involved with. And like you say, we'd already humiliated them. It was just a case of keeping the ball then and picking them off.
So quickly, Danny, what were the celebrations like for the players? We obviously felt it as fans and felt part of it, but as a player, what was that like to celebrate such a success? Did having guys like Lockie and obviously Blackie in there, that help?
This is when I realised after the game, not before, not during, not in the build-up, not after we'd won the semi-final, but after we'd won it, this is why I realised why they did not want Hibs in the final. Because if the game had gone the other way, it would have, which obviously it's easy to say that, but it would have destroyed so many people's Hearts careers. Do you know what I mean? It would have ruined what we'd been through, getting to a Scottish Cup final, and sort of being beaten by your biggest rivals in the biggest derby going. Yeah, I can see now, because I've seen how much it meant to fans. The party afterwards, obviously, the celebrations in the stadium as a group in the changing rooms, it was fantastic. Got up into the families' lounge, went back down Gorgie Road, and the streets are lined. They were going back to Tynecastle for our private function, and me and Driver and Gowser pushed the fire exit off the top of the roof on the bus, and we're on top of the bus coming down Gorgie Road, seeing all the fans, and yeah, just you seeing that was incredible. And obviously the night in the Gorgie Lounge together, it was amazing. Just having fun together, and the wives, the families, everybody were involved, and you've got Driver and Stevie Elliott messing about on the bands and singing songs, and yeah, just amazing memories, things like that. And the games, people always say this, and the games, the memories in the games are amazing, but the memories with your teammates and the celebrations are always the sort of, you can really remember them. And then obviously the Sunday, the open top bus, it was like just incredible, absolutely incredible.
And you 100% deserved it as well. I think that's the part you can, rest on the fact that you celebrated hard and had a really nice time after the match, but you bloody deserved it. It had been a grueling season where no one knew where Hearts were going to end up, and to win the cup final in the manner that you guys did.
Me and Gals ended up in. Lockie said to us after the open top bus parade, he said to us, "Oh, do you want to come to one of our supporters groups?" He says, "There's only going to be about 30 or 40 there." So me and Gals were meeting like Rudy, Stevie Elliott, Webby and that in town later that night. So me and Gals were like, "Yeah, come on then, we'll go for a couple of hours and we'll go back into town and meet the boys." And coming to the Whitburn Club in, I think it's Dalkeith, I think it was. And oh my God. Woodburn Club in Dalkeith. Oh my good God, we were in there all afternoon. Me and Gowser could hardly stand up by the time we got out. I don't think we bought a drink. We had about 900 Jaeger bombs each. It was absolutely insane. But again, it was nice to celebrate it. And again, this isn't something just for the sake of saying it. It was nice to celebrate it with people, and you could see what it meant. And this is what I'm saying regarding. You now see why the likes of Lockie and Blackie didn't want it, because you see how much it meant to them for winning it. You see how much it would have destroyed them if you'd have lost it. So,
yeah, I don't think they ever found Gary O'Connor's losing medal, did they? After he threw it
but again, that's what it meant to people. Do you know what I mean? It meant so much. It meant so much to so many people.
Yeah.
And that's why you wanted to join a club like Hearts. We'll go back to the start where you said, why Hearts? And that was the reason. And you fully expect to do well in cup competitions and get to finals and be successful. And that was part of it.
I actually saw you on the open top bus at the end. I aimed a can of cider at you. And I know it's funny enough, it was caught on camera as well. On one of my old phones, my friend was taking photos of the bus, and I was throwing cider onto the bus from a graveyard.
Gowser caught it, you did, you're right.
Yeah. It was Gowser that actually managed to catch two of them. But yeah, one of them was aimed for you, but I launched it, and I it was one of those things where I was split mind. Do I throw a can full of liquid at this other human being, or on another event I probably wouldn't have, but I was just so jubilant that I launched it, and thankfully caught it because it hit someone.
No, it was.
On this podcast
again, them memories. I remember going on like you say on the open top bus, and you go past shops, you go past bus stops, and the people just hanging off any corner they could get to see the players, and it's like, this is insane, like absolutely crazy. But again, they're the memories that you want as a young footballer, and I'm privileged and blessed that I've been able to sort of say that.
So, Danny, touching on that, how much does it mean to you to know now for the rest of your life and the rest of Hearts' life, you're going to be sort of etched in history? You're going to be one of these guys that's brought back at half time. It's going to be welcomed, a genuine club legend at a big club. Like, surely that's what you can't even dream about as a young kid. Like, you could walk into any pub on Gorgie Road, get a drink. I mean, I'd kick my mum out of bed and let you have it if you needed it. Do you know what I mean? It's how does it feel to be a legend and just that's always going to be there now. You've made history.
Yeah,
how does that feel?
I mean, you look at it now, and I think obviously anybody that knows me knows how much Hearts means to me. I've had two really special clubs in my career, and that's obviously Carlisle, my hometown team, and Hearts is my team now, and it's. I take nothing more I take as much sort of happiness as probably a fan now when I sit and watch. I was watching the other night on BBC Scotland, watching the game and shouting at the screen, and the cup final the other week when it goes to penalties.
Yep.
But it means a lot. You find Hearts is a club that people they don't just come there and sort of uproot and go. I see Ollie Lee's tweets and things like that the other week, Instagram when he left. It's a special club, and people find it hard to leave it. I love coming back up, and not for the sake of coming up for the sort of the ego side of it, where I can come in and say that I won the cup or out like that. I love coming back to Hearts because it's a special club, and like I say, prior to the coronavirus, I was up there as much as I could get up with my little fella to watch the games, and it's nice. It's great to go to a club and obviously a club like Hearts and be able to come there and watch them and feel part of it still is an amazing feeling. And that's the biggest thing. It's not a case of being a legend and things like that. You still feel part of the club, and that's what you want to always be.
No. So just before we finish, Danny, I'm sure Lee would be interested in this one as well. Just a quick chat about your coaching career and your managerial career and stuff. I know Lee coaches, so he's probably got a few questions that he would like to ask you. But how's it going, man? You enjoying it? Is it put off with COVID at the minute? Or?
It's been absolutely fantastic, to be honest with you. I've loved it. I'm sort of coaching at a level to try and get my hand into the door type thing, my foot in the door, and it's been great. Last 2 seasons ago, we were 10 points clear at the top of the league, 7 games to go, and coronavirus hits, and the season's fully null and void, and we don't get our title. And then similar last season, we were 9 games in, we were second in the league, 2 points off top of the game in hand, I think we were, and we should have been. It's been a tough couple of seasons to take because obviously I'm a young manager and I want to do well. I started off as Gretna as a 16-year-old and wanted to climb as high as I could, and I want to do the exact same as a manager. I'm a young manager. I'm only 34, but I've got belief and I've got a belief in myself that I know where I want to go and I want to push myself as much as I can.
Brilliant. That's really good. And do the young lads that you're coaching, do they not say, Gaffer, we need
I've played a couple of games. I went in as player manager,
but
it sounds silly. I've got no enjoyment with playing as much now. I've lost not lost the drive because I'll never lose the drive to play football, but I've lost the side of it. But that's gone into coaching now, and it's just it's gone that way. And to be honest with you, prior to us finishing, it's I would say one of the biggest influences on my career, and he doesn't know it, but I've said it many a times, is Jim Jeffries. He took me from back to Dunfermline. He took me to Dunfermline. He took me to Hearts, gave me the best days of my career. He took me to Dunfermline when I was in the lowest point of my career and brought me back to sort of falling in love with football. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even have entertained a thought about coaching. And like I say, now I absolutely love it, and it hopefully keeps going from strength to strength and see wherever it takes me.
So you mentioned there the lowest part of your career. Was that after the cup win?
I had the knee injury when I'd done my ACL when I was at Hearts, and obviously when we played Motherwell away, I'd done my knee and I was out for 9 months, and I didn't get a new contract at Hearts. Lockie was trying to get me one, but the powers above wouldn't let him do it because of the administration that was coming in and things like that. Then I went to St Mirren and I wasn't the same player. I had a fallout with the management. It didn't work for me, and I was sick. I'd gone from loving football, playing football every week with a real smile and a real passion and a real burning desire that I was doing well, to the complete opposite end of the scale in the space of 12 months, which happens in football. I'm lucky enough now that I can sit here and I've learnt from that. But some other footballers aren't as lucky as me and unfortunately fall away and end up chucking it in completely.
And do you think that with Jim Jeffries obviously bringing you to Dunfermline, without that influence, you wouldn't have been able to play for Carlisle United, would you, in the end?
I wouldn't.
You were there before the end of your playing career,
the last day of the transfer window at St Mirren, the next day I was going to pack up all my stuff and come home because I'd had enough, and I was going to chuck football and just get back into sort of normality and normal life and get a job because I just had fallen out with football so much. and Jim Jeffries phoned me. He just said, "Oh, that's not happening. Come play for me." And I said, "No disrespect, Jim." I said, "You're in the first division." I said, "You can't afford to sort of put me and my wife and my little fella up." And he says, "Don't worry, I'll sort that." And the club found a sponsor to sponsor me a flat and put me and my wife up and everything. And like I said, he doesn't. Wow. I don't think he ever realises how much of an influence he's had on my career. And no, he definitely gave me my best days of my career, and he kept my career going because he brought me to Dunfermline. I fell back in love with football, went back to my hometown team, captained my hometown team for 5 years, and retired happy. And now I'm going into coaching and trying to climb this ladder now.
So, just a quick question, Danny. Obviously, down in England, they've got some of the best coaches and managers in the world. So, is it Pep, Guardiola, or Mourinho for you? Who would you like to play for if you had the choice?
Yeah, I love watching Pep. I've since sort of the last good few years, sort of the last 5 or 6 years, I've read a lot of his books. I've watched a lot of his stuff, and I love watching his teams play football. Him and Klopp at the moment are two absolutely geniuses in my eyes. The way they can get players to do certain things is tremendous, and the tactical side of it is look, we all know the tactical side of it is massive now. But as I said there, I think it's the environment they're being able to create and the buy-in they're being able to create from players, getting them the success is what they're doing.
That's a bold shout.
Yeah,
for Manchester United fan, Danny.
I don't often get a chance to say it because I'll end up getting lynched. But no, in all honesty, he is. But I obviously, there's very good managers going around at the moment. Obviously, you've got the guy at Southampton. You've got Brendan Rodgers doing well. There's a lot of good managers doing well down in England at the moment. And like I say, it bodes for good football. And I think obviously Gerrard at Rangers doing really well. And again, it just shows that experience isn't everything. Sometimes it's getting the right person in to create the right environment and the right drive, and that's what can get you success.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Danny, I've loved speaking to you, man. I've loved listening to you. Thank you very much for coming on. It's made my day, and I'm sure a lot of Hearts fans that listen to this will love hearing from you. And I personally wish you all the best at for your managerial career as well, man. I hope it goes well. You deserve it.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and I'll jump on a train with you when you're going up to Tynecastle next time we're allowed up on a Sunday, and we can have a few beers and watch a game together if you want.
That's no awesome. Problem. I don't think I could ever decline that.
No, not at all.
Mate. That's awesome. I just want to finish off by saying, mirroring Rory, very best of luck for management. If your management skills has anything to do with how you play football, I'm sure that you'll be in for an easy ride, buddy. You've served Hearts well, and really other teams that you've been up to.
And I'll tell you what, Lee, if me and you fancy a little lady, how about we go down and see a Workington game?
Sounds good to me. I'll get you in with our supporters group, and you'll
absolutely
have a right day. You'll enjoy it. We'll see what we can do.
Heart of Midlothian, Workington supporters club.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good.
Right, Danny, thank you very much for your time, man. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been an absolute honour to speak to you. So look after yourself. Hope the family's safe.
No problem at all, mate. Stay safe, guys. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.
Ta-ra. Ta-ra, Danny. Thank you.
Away up in Gorgie at Tynecastle Park, there's a wee football team that to lie make its mark. They've won all the honours of footballing arts.